first
Yeah,
time?
yeah, yeah.
Wow. Are you nervous?
A little bit, just because I mean, I've just recently started to actually converse with people in the space. Like I've been on here for 2 years now, but just in the last couple months, I said, okay, let's start doing some networking with collectors and actually hanging out with people. And it's just been so fun having people who you can chat with about all the intricacies of the space. So I'm kind of just trying to get
Right.
more and more into it. So when you came with this opportunity, I was like, what, why not? Because it's just so fun.
Yeah, it definitely is. Like I usually avoided, yeah, getting on spaces, but then you feel like you're not really connecting with the NFT world, right? You kind of feel like an
Yeah,
outsider. So it's one of the yeah, it's one of the best ways to connect
yeah.
with people. So and also yeah, and I also love chatting with collectors and
Oh, it's
artists.
so fun.
And
It's so
yeah,
fun. That's the best part
yeah,
of
it
the
is, right?
space. Like getting to have be in DMs with artists, especially, I think is just so rewarding. Like the personalization of it all.
Definitely. So how did you get into NFTs, man?
Yeah, so I guess was interested originally actually in Top Shot because I'm a basketball fan and I know sports. So I was like, oh, okay, I can I don't know about crypto or digital art or anything like that, but I at least know what basketball players are good, and that seems interesting. So I started there and then got on Twitter, got on Discord, and saw there was this whole world of NFTs basically. And I think the first experience with digital art was actually seeing when ACK did his original collabs with Xcopy, and I was just like, "What is this? This is so cool!" Like I didn't even know NFTs could be this stuff because that was around the same time that PFPs were popping off, and it was like Bored Apes and all these random animal characters, which I wasn't
Mm,
not interested in because I was there and there was obviously opportunities to make money, which was cool. But to actually see that there was this whole side of crypto art and that people had been doing this for years was super interesting to me. As someone who's got zero crypto background, I and also zero actual art background. My parents did interior design, so I know design and I work in architecture in real life. Um, but yeah, I kind of my experience with art up until this point was mostly through film and music. Um, and this was just a completely new thing for me that I found so interesting and fun. And I just basically sit for hours on OpenSea and just forensically go through different collectors and different artists. And yeah, I've basically been doing it for 8 hours a day, 2 years straight now. And I don't think I'm ever going to stop.
mm. Wow, that's amazing, bro. Is that how you came across the X copy and his art?
Exactly.
Is like right in your beginning?
Exactly. Yeah. I actually didn't know Xcopy before I knew ACK, even though obviously he's significantly older in the space.
Mm,
That was my first intro. And then, but I didn't actually buy any um, art at that time because I didn't have any money. Um, so it took me about 6 months, probably, yeah, probably until like October, November 21 was when I had traded enough stuff like PFPs and that kind of thing to be able to at least like think about um, getting actual artwork from some of these guys that I started to really admire and like. Uh, and that was kind of, I think the first like proper piece that I got that I was super proud of and couldn't believe that I got was a Molotov glitch bomb from ACK. Um, and it was just I just couldn't believe that this guy who's selling works for 100 ETH and just all these big time collectors were coming and getting his stuff that I could just have chats with him
mm,
in DMs and he was so personable and just so nice to me, someone that didn't know had no experience, couldn't buy couldn't buy these pieces. I was just really like touched by the fact that I could have these conversations with him and still do to this day.
yeah, is that important to you that artists are open and communicate with
Ah,
everyone?
super, super. I think after, you know, now, I mean, I've probably collected, I don't really care if it's expensive or not expensive. I collect all different kinds of stuff. And I've probably talked to several hundred artists, whether I've collected them or not collected them.
Wow. So it's like
Am I
it's
still?
an important step.
Sorry, I dropped out there for a second.
Yeah, I think you dropped out. Yeah.
Um,
What were you saying?
what was I saying? Oh yeah, just with all these different artists, like I think I've been, I mean, it's there's really great things about it, and there's really bad things about it as well. Like I think sometimes I've seen some people talk about this recently, which I really liked. I don't know if you saw maybe a week or two ago, Bitman put out a post about an artist that he collected early who then blew up, and now he tries to DM him and he doesn't even talk to him anymore. I don't know if you saw.
Uh,
Uh,
I didn't see it. I hear about that all
yeah,
the
it was
time.
just
That's
I
so
was
whack.
just I think those are kind of things that you can't really talk about too much in the space because everything I think you have to be like a lot of times I think the best option because the space is so small and everybody knows each other, the real ones at least. Sometimes I definitely feel nervous about voicing certain opinions or calling people out or because everybody's obviously got their own things and we all make mistakes, both artist and collector side. Um, but to me, that was just like a very poignant point because I had an experience with that similarly towards the end of last year, and I was like actually hurt about it. Like it felt like when you're a kid and you break up with a girl and you like wish that they would text you back, but they just won't. It was just like a weird
Yeah.
feeling to have in a very different space, and something that I had never experienced before. But you do learn a lot from it, and I think um, from my perspective, it was like how fragile the relationships can be. Because, you've got this pendulum where on one side, artists who are either just starting out or they're struggling to sell their work, you get DMs from all different types of artists all the time. And sometimes, you connect and sometimes you don't, and that's fine. And I think I have no problem with artists reaching out, and I've made some of my best friends in the space that way. But you've got that side where you're sort of the one that's, I guess, in demand, if you will. And then you have the other side where there's artists who everybody wants their work and they can kind of pick and choose what they want. And there's nothing wrong with them having that. They've earned that ability to do that as well. But I think what's weird from my perspective, at least in the past, is when you do form bonds with artists early, or and you make deals for private sales or you make deals for editions or whatever, and then because the space moves so fast, you can have an artist go from 2,000 followers and their work selling or not selling, maybe something's available, to 10,000 followers in a month. Everything's gone. It's times 100. Sometimes they'll stick around and they're still interested in you, and sometimes they're not, and you just don't know where you're going to be on that scale sometimes,
Mm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that totally makes sense, man. And my personal take on that is being an asshole is a choice, man, honestly.
Yeah,
Like you don't have to be that way with people. If you don't want to communicate with somebody, then just communicate that. But just snobbing people is the worst fucking thing to me on this space, especially.
definition. That's the thing. It's like I don't care if you don't have time for me anymore. You're too busy. You've got all these different people coming at
Yeah.
you. Auction houses, what have you. That actually, I'm happy for you, and even the people that have snubbed me, I'm happy for them. But all I would so have appreciated if they just said early. To be honest with you, the things that I said I could do before, I can't anymore. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. But don't string you on
Yeah.
for months, and because some artists think, oh, I have to please everybody, blah blah blah, and you just, I don't know. I mean, it's definitely a point where I'm venting from a collector side of things, but at the same time, I could say a million great things about so many artists that I've met as well and collectors. So
Yeah, for sure. And I think you have that right, man, because, you know, me as an artist, if somebody buys my piece, it doesn't matter. Like even if it's $1,
Yeah,
it still kind of blows my mind,
yeah, yeah.
because it's like somebody actually put in their hard-earned money towards me and my work and what I believe in, and that's amazing to me. If I don't have the time, you owe to that person in some way some kind of response, because if you don't do that, in my opinion at least, it ruins your reputation. It's not good. It's toxic, and you always pay a price, because on your way up, you're gonna see the people on your way down, the same people. So
That's true.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, man. And what are your thoughts on the NFT world today, man? Because we are going through some crazy shit.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, my time most recently has actually been taken up by spending more time outside of the space and trying to learn
Mhm.
about, because I just don't. I mean, there's a small group of proper collectors that are still around and who I still chat with, and obviously there's still great artists making great work. But I'd say in the last month, even particularly, because I know it's been an whatever extended bear, however many months they want to say it's been, I haven't really felt the effects of that until probably April in general, where I just get on Twitter and I just feel like everything's negative. It's just shitcoin talk. Nobody's even talking about art anymore. But I mean, the contradictories of the space go on because when we had that little mini run on art in December, Jan, whenever that was, not too long ago, 3 or 4 months ago, it was so many people. I mean, I was also unhappy because it was so many people that actually didn't care about the art that were um, monetizing it in ways that I just don't agree with. It was lots of people that just aren't actually there for the art. So either
Mm,
side of the equation I could complain about. I think my whole point of being in the space is just spending that extra time to find those gems because there's so many amazing collectors and artists, but they're so hard to find, and you really have to work for it to find those people. And I hope that as we move forward in the space, that becomes easier and easier as more of those people come in and stick around. I don't know if that really answers the question, but I kind of feel like that's where where we're at right now.
mm,
I don't. I'm still like 100% conviction. Like I believe all the great art will be great in the future. I
mm,
just yeah, I'm not too happy with the space right now overall.
mm. Yeah, it's a complex question,
It's so
It's got
complicated, yeah.
yeah. Because like today I was on Twitter. I'm dying to know what you think about this. I was on Twitter and somebody said super rare is dead. There's only three
Mm,
auctions going on,
yeah, I
and I
saw
was
that
like,
as well.
I gotta ask, yeah, I gotta ask you. What do you? Does that make you want to leave the space? Does that
No,
make you excited? Like what?
no, not at all. I do think if I was gonna choose like bull or bear market, this is so much better. I think like there was
Mm,
that period when super in just even in not long ago. I know we all go through cycles over and over again, but maybe yeah, 3 or 4 months ago, super rare was like you had artists that I mean I don't know how to describe it, but like you had like Tezos is obviously like a breeding ground or I mean so I don't know what you want to call it, but so much great art is on Tezos and so many proper collectors hang out on there and truly collect art for art's sake, not for the monetary value at all. And then you had these guys who were selling for like $100 on Tezos that are then have these super rare auctions going for 12 ETH. But that and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that was amazing for them to get that kind of value. But what was happening was every auction on Super Rare, the minute it started, bang, it's going. People are bidding, people are going higher across the board. Tons of artists you may have heard of, you may have not heard. You're just like, there's no time to appreciate it. There's no time to think about how you value the work. You either get in that 24-hour action or you're done. Whereas now there's only three going. I can actually look at the work. I can, if do I appreciate it? Do I not appreciate it? I can spend time with it. Like it's just this is I much prefer it in this way than the other, if that makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah, that makes sense. As an artist, I feel like this is the time where you really put in the work. You know what I'm saying? When
Mm.
somebody was saying things are quiet, I'm like, yeah, things are quiet, and you're supposed to make the most noise. So You know what I'm saying? Like this is a time when the next cycle, whatever it's gonna be, when
Yeah,
people realize what NFTs are, right? You know, they're
yeah,
gonna be like, all right, who's really going? And it's gonna be the people that are doing it today. Yeah,
100%.
yeah. And as an artist, sorry, I mean as a collector, do you feel the need to protect yourself in the space
In
from
in
like
what
shilling
in
and
what
all that kind
sense?
of stuff? Like,
Oh, from
I,
shilling.
yeah, you know, like people kind of, artists have a way of treating some collectors like ATMs.
Oh
Sometimes,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I was just seeing like a lot of posts talking about artists kind of guilt tripping collectors.
Oh
So have
yeah,
you ever
that's
felt like
crazy.
you needed to protect yourself because you know you're a pretty heavy collector? But yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
My thought is like the amount of like due diligence I do in my head to collect an artist. I very rarely like I think I very rarely have to interact with that, and if it does come, I think I mostly just ignore it. I don't really entertain or interact with that kind of behavior overall. I
Mm,
think yeah, I mean, I'm sure I definitely know what you mean. I see that happening all the time, and I wouldn't say that I'm immune to it or it doesn't happen, but I think I don't know. I think I'm just trying to think of how to describe like how I go about it in a way that I don't have to like have I ever been guilt tripped by an artist? I'm trying to think. I don't I don't think so. I think maybe I've just been lucky.
mm,
I mean, I did say earlier, obviously, I've had it where, they kind of you're not important anymore, kind of thing, and you kind of fall off that way. But yeah, I don't think that that's happened to me before. But I do all of the artists that I collect from and interact with. There's usually like a strong like it's like all the intangibles, I guess, like it's really weird how you can have like 20 artists in your DMs, but there's just like for whatever reason, and you're texting, you don't know them. Obviously, we're all anon, but some of them you just connect with. Like I
mm.
don't know why. It's not like anyone said anything special or whatever. You just get a vibe, and those are the ones that I tend to stick with.
So you'd say it's more like a relationship in kind of some way. It's like a give and take kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I and obviously it gets more complicated. Like that's at the heart of the like I guess the joy of collecting, but I think it gets more complicated when you talk about like at the what everyone just says like collect what you love and you can't go wrong kind of thing.
right.
Um, it gets more complicated when you want to like stay in the space and continue because if you just collected what you loved, uh, you can't collect forever unless I keep putting more money in. And
Right.
like you said, like these things cost a lot of money. Like it's actually wild how like the amounts I've spent on on NFT digital art is exponentially greater than anything I've ever bought in real life.
Mm.
Um, and that's because of the benefits that I guess crypto and the space affords us if you put in your time and you can grow your wealth however you go about doing that, whether it's coins or NFTs or whatever. Um, but I think for me it's like a balance of collecting what I love, collecting what I think will be valuable. There's a whole list of things that I think about um when I'm gonna collect from different
Interesting.
types of people, if that makes sense. Because I don't know. I think yeah, I think it's more complicated than just collecting what you love, is basically what I'm trying to say. I don't disagree with it. I think that is the end goal, is to always collect what you love, but that's kind of a utopian idea in my opinion that can only be possible if you also make decisions that you're not always comfortable with, or you've identified like a trend in art or whatever. But that's from an investor perspective, which I think it's not my only perspective, but it's one that I think is useful to have as well. I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah, the reason I'm asking you this is also because I'm fascinated by how collectors think, right? Because I went to NFT Paris.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, yeah. Tell you the truth, I was a bit disappointed, but hey, it was the first one. It was cool. It was a
Yeah,
good
yeah.
experience. Yeah, but so I went up to this massive collector, and I wasn't trying to shill or anything. We were just having a conversation, and the moment I told him I was an artist, there was like this switch that went off in his head, and he went into like this robot mode, and he just like like you were talking to AI or something,
Like he got
and
super defensive, kind of, in some
exactly,
ways.
yeah, and all the walls went up, and it was like
Oh,
I was like, that's fucking interesting. What just
yeah,
happened? You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
So that's why when even when I'm trying to get collectors to come on the space, bro, just to talk, they are super defensive sometimes.
Mm.
Uh, and it's yeah, I love to ask collectors that accept to talk to me. Is I want to understand what's going on, because I feel like there is kind of like a disconnect between artists and collectors. Like
Yeah,
like
yeah,
yeah, it's like there's a lack in conversation because
for
I was
sure.
really like disappointed. I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not
Taken
a
aback. Yeah, yeah.
telemarketer.
No, no. No, and you weren't even shilling. You just literally said you're an artist.
Exactly. And it was
Yeah.
like, whoa, 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 whoa. What are you trying to do? What do you want from me now? Yeah, and I was like, I was a bit disappointed on that aspect, but
Yeah. No,
it's
that's
it
fair.
yeah, and it feels like that's how the space is so new because I feel like there's a certain paranoia and everybody's like,
Oh,
yeah,
100%. 100%.
yeah,
There definitely is a paranoia. I think all the time, like, if you burn a bridge in this tiny space, I feel like you're branded. I mean, I know I can think of, when I have conversations with collectors who I really respect and value, we're always talking about, not always, but we do, we will mention if maybe a larger collector, an influencer, whatever you call them, does something that's just like we disagree with or is just like kind of nasty behavior, we definitely will call that out. And like, you don't really, it's really hard to come back from stuff like that when you do that. And I think the paranoia from like my perspective would be like, what if, like, doing any, like, basically getting that feeling that I feel when I know that collectors do some bullshit. I
mm.
would, that's one of my worst fears in the space would be to have other collectors feel that way about me or artists.
And what's the nastiest thing an artist you feel did to you or indirectly to you?
An artist, or
Yeah, an
is that
artist.
correct? Definitely that what I described earlier, where we were having great conversations, a
Yeah,
a
it's not.
a fair deal was made, um, and then completely like pretended like it never happened and just never even saw my messages anymore, wrote back, just completely ghosted after talking for 8 months, probably, well before being remotely popular.
That's disgusting. And
It
so
hurts.
when yeah, I bet it does. And when that happens, is there some kind of network where you send off to your other collector friends and you're like, watch out for that fucking guy. He's an asshole. Like, does that happen?
It does, but to an extent, like I would say I'm so paranoid about it that I've probably only described it in the same way that I've described it to you.
Mm.
I would never talk about the artist that way, and I'm still super nice on Twitter. I'm always congratulate, like I'm not gonna let that bad behavior like um make my behavior toxic or poor or whatever. So I'm just gonna stick to it, and I'm still gonna support everything they're doing. I'm still gonna support their new collectors. I'm still gonna, um, yeah, I'm still just gonna be a cheerleader as I would for any other artist that I think is special and could be even bigger in the future.
Incredible. I'm really curious about your fund, man. I believe it's called Babo Bella Fund. Is that
Yeah,
it?
yeah, that's
Yeah.
it.
Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, so I guess I mean I've been doing this for a while now, and then I've got my brother and some friends, some family friends who have seen my success in the space and have been interested in it. And I said, why don't we, put a group together and start to go after some artists and some work that we really believe in. So we got a fund together in December, and we've just started this year to collect stuff that we really believe in. And I think the sort of piece that we bought as our foundation or our cornerstone is a Jack Kaido one of one from his Traces series. And
Wow.
Jack to me is like one of the premier artists in the space for every single reason you could think of. And one of the things that really was a game changer for me is he wrote an essay about digital abstract art and its position and where he thinks it is now and where he thinks it's going. And it was just one of the most articulate um, things I've ever read, and I just separated himself so much from I think some of the other artists that I followed or I'm interested in, and just the way he carries himself and the work that he creates. I was just beyond over the moon that we were able to collect something like that. Like the joy that it gave me and thinking about the piece. And I've never written about um, art and posted it or done anything like that before, but I wrote like a small thread about what the piece that we collected meant to me and the fund. And it took me like 2 weeks to write like whatever it is, 300 words. I was shocked at how hard it was to put pen to paper about art, but it was super enjoyable and something that I want to do more of moving forward.
Definitely. I think that'll be awesome to see, man. And you guys have some pretty like heavy art collections. Like I think I saw Squiggle and some pretty legendary stuff. But the question I have for you is, when you guys put in so much money into something, are you worried that
Yeah.
it's ever going to go to zero, or do you not care? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't care. I think I like when you have this kind of belief in the movement and the space and the artist, despite all of the or I guess warts and all, with all of the negative things that are also going
Mm.
on in the space. I don't think that I really care about it going to zero. Like getting to own some of this stuff is just like as a collector is like the best feeling ever, and to support artists who you believe in, uh yeah, it's like the best feeling ever. And to just spend time also, I mean, there's obviously the fact of, yeah, you can buy heavy pieces like a Kaido one of one or a Squiggle in that. But I think equally as important is finding new artists who you believe in and getting to prop them up in that way is just as good, if not more rewarding. So there's just so many positives to take away from being a collector in the space that, and I think um, that's kind of what I want the fund to reflect, and my
Mm.
own collection
Oh,
concurrently.
wow. And you said something interesting. You said you had collected from I forgot the artist's name, but I know who you're talking about. But you said that he wrote an article. So do you feel like artists should always try to stand out and do things differently from
I've
everybody else?
I personally do. I think obviously everybody's got their own opinions. Um, but I think going back to when I first like started to get interested in art, that was what I did. I mean it's a different story, but my first experience with art was when I was, I don't know, like 12 years old at Blockbuster, and I picked a random movie off the shelf. It was do you know the director Jim Jarmusch by
No,
chance?
no.
Oh, he's super cool, super
I'll
weird
check it out.
uh guy who was famous in like the 80s. And I watched this film, and it was about an assassin, a Portuguese assassin, and there's probably like 5 lines of dialogue in the whole movie, and it's like 2 hours long, and the shots are crazy. It's just this guy like walking around, beautiful lighting, just crazy cinematography. And I was like, I didn't know you could make something like this. Like I've been watching what around that time it was movies like Transformers, like random
Right.
movies, and I didn't know you could make stuff like this. And then you looking at his work and getting into, you find okay, then there's a director, then there's the production company. Okay, what have they made? And you keep going down these like rabbit holes, and doing that with NFTs is I'm doing the same thing now. Um, and yeah, so I'm always looking. I don't know. That's kind of a roundabout way to say why I do it now, but I'm always looking for artists that differentiate themselves. I think one of the ones I can think of that I found recently is Artemis and Arts. He does um, AI AI related work, but he creates his own codes and puts them in. I can't really describe it. I'm not a tech savvy person, but he puts these wonderful cards that go along with them that describe how the work is generated and what it means and where he's come up with these ideas. And it just gives you such insight into the work that you don't always get um, in the digital art space. And those kind of things to me, yeah, make him stand out in an AI space where you don't really know. A lot of it's just like, oh, I spend a lot of time doing prompts or whatever. There's so many ways that I mean, this is a very uh, niche genre we're talking about. But to me, that was like a very this was illuminating from a field of art that I don't really understand at this point. So that was like a clear indicator. And just having conversations with him, he's one of the nicest people I've ever met. He's always there. He's just got so many interesting things to say. He's always sharing his stuff with me. Never shilled, and then also has just the other collectors who like him are people who I really respect and admire as well. So it was just like a no-brainer from my perspective. And those don't come along that often. You're doing it 24/7, and um, when you find artists and you click like that, it's just that's what you're doing. That's the reward.
You know, what's really fascinating is you said that you in a way you discovered art through film. So even at that young age, you're able to link the two because the classical story is oh you went to a museum or you saw a painting, but
Mm.
you saw art through film. That's pretty interesting, man.
Yeah, so I guess it's just a roundabout way because I was never was interested really in going to museums when I was younger, and I've never really been interested in traditional art. I think I've always loved design. Like I like furniture design and I like um, architecture. Like I know architectural history, but yeah, I never was into traditional art, and so that's been one of my goals through this bear market is to start to um, learn more about traditional art and try and find parallels between traditional art and digital art. Um, and that's been super challenging, but pretty fun at the same time. And that's, what the bear market gives you because you just don't have to be as plugged in to the space. You can kind of pick and choose much more now.
Do you feel like digital art has a link to architecture?
Ooh, hmm. Sometimes it does. I mean, there's some really cool digital artists that are inspired by architecture and use it in their work. But I think more it's just having the I guess eye to recognize good design of any kind. Just being able to have practiced it for longer. I think that from a collector side, it's I think that there's a lot of room to grow um, in digital art in terms of recognizing good design and well thought because you guess I don't know there's a massive spread of I just don't think sometimes we're thinking as a collective as a wider group. Sometimes I feel like the wider collector base is not thinking enough about what the art's saying and what it means. And it's too many times we're talking about how much it resold for, not about what it means. Not that they're both important, I just think, every on the occasion that I do decide to write something about the art, it's always super refreshing when you get other collectors who I respect coming in and saying, "So nice to read a thread about the art," because you just get
Mm,
too much. Sometimes you're just inundated by the monetary values around it that you just lose that bit.
yeah. So you feel like sometimes at Web3, it's too concentrated on money, not enough about the art.
Yeah, yeah, I think
Yeah,
sometimes that's true.
yeah, yeah. I feel like that maybe that's why maybe some artists don't always get the recognition maybe they deserve because yeah, you're out there fighting constantly, right, to get to the top of the charts, and
Yeah,
if you don't have any sales, then who gives a shit about you, you know?
yeah, yeah. I mean, but I will say I know tons of collectors, and I consider myself to be one that we don't care. Obviously, going back to the point earlier, sometimes you do need to buy stuff because you need it to go up in value. But most of the time, if I do buy and I don't know what you want to call it, resale or trade art, that money goes back to buying artists who don't sell stuff and who nobody knows because I think their art is sick and
Mm,
it connects.
yeah,
And there's
definitely.
lots of collectors like that. It's not just, PFP people coming over to flip stuff and do whatever the hell they want. There's lots of really cool, smart collectors.
Yeah, and I don't think we should definitely not put the blame on collectors 100% because when we're artists, right, and my point of view, looking
Mm.
from your side, is we're also fighting the algo all the time,
Oh
right?
yeah.
It is exhausting. And yeah, it's too bad that things have to be this difficult. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No,
Do you
no,
feel like I'm sorry, man. Go ahead. I didn't mean
I
to
was
cut you
just
off.
gonna say I completely sympathized with you because as a collector, like it doesn't matter. Like I don't care if I on occasion will do a GM post or on occasion will post if I collect a piece that I like, and I don't care if 5 people like it or if 300 people like it. Whereas if I'm, flip it to the artist side, like you need engagement and you need, and that's like, yeah, I mean, obviously, lots of artists I know have a gripe with that, and I know sometimes artists will say, I don't understand. Like, I'll try and talk with other collectors and say, like, how do you get this artist more exposure? Or, what do we do? Do we have to do those annoying ass things where you like have to say, oh, I just got this sick follow, like look how cool I am now, or my I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like people just
Yeah,
have to end up doing stupid
stupid shit.
posts
Yeah,
so that they
yeah.
get engagement, and it just yeah.
That shit
So
for
yeah,
me.
just
Yeah,
saying I sympathize.
yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Because yeah, but it's yeah. I was gonna ask you is, do you feel like an artist has to show up every day for you
No,
to know?
no, no, not at all. I was actually, that's funny that you say that because one of my favorite artists was writing the other day, oh, I'm thinking about like this is what I'm gonna run my one of one schedule as because like I don't want people to think that I'm not engaged and like around every day. And I was like, personally, I don't care at all. Like I know I know how special you are. Like, I know how amazing your work is. I know that the right people are interested in your work. Like, that literally does not matter to me. But I do know from a lot, I feel like that's a very common point that artists bring up is like you have to be visible like at all times or people think you're not there and then they complain and like you're expected to be like a machine that just keeps putting out work and generating value for collectors, which is an insane concept.
Yeah, it's especially like me myself. I'm in that gray zone where I'm working on some art, but it may seem like you're out of the space when in reality, you got your
Oh
pulse on
yeah.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's a tough balancing act, and at the same time, when I think about it, I'm down to know what you think. Is it's a bit of a filter. You know what I'm saying? It's well, who's really here to create and who's really here
Mm,
just for the money? You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? It's a complicated dance, right? Like, how do you feel about that? Like, do you in some way think that yeah, it's complicated, but it's good that it's tough because you see who's in it or not? What are your thoughts?
100% it's good that it's tough. It's good that it's
Mm,
tough. It's good
mm,
that you weed people out and that you have to have extra um like strength to survive and you have to truly be talented to survive and the people that are the flash in the pans are a flash in the pan for a reason. I think overall those challenges are should be like welcomed and embraced because it shouldn't be easy. If it was easy, the quality would be shittier. Like there'd be it only like better things come from it being hard.
mm.
I don't know. I hope so at least.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, you run down a football field with a football, it doesn't mean you scored a touchdown, right?
Yeah,
So you got to have those hard times. It's just like I was saying, like, this is what makes Web3 so fucking crazy is it's a balancing act for artists at least because you are playing sometimes with your mental health, when
mm,
yeah, you feel like, oh shit, this is I'm getting close to a burnout because
for sure.
yeah, it's tough, man. Art because not just because people don't collect your art, I think it's because we're emotional as hell. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
We take everything personally and yeah. Um but anyways, I wanted to know what are your thoughts on X Copy, man? What do you think about this massive artist in the Web3 art?
I mean the biggest the biggest NFT purchase trade I've ever done is my for my X copy Rabble and um I mean it's the most money I've spent on anything by yeah times times 10 and I know we were saying monetary value doesn't matter but I think what that to me, it's like, and I didn't think twice about it. It wasn't even a thought. I mean, I'll just talk about that because I think it's an easy way to explain how important I think um, his work is. When I started around that time and I found that ACK collab with Xcopy, uh, just was doing some research on X's work from that around the same time, and it was that must have been yeah March. So I guess 6 months before he had done the rabble, and I think the master layer was like what was it? Was it like 32 ETH or something? I can't remember exactly, but it was like to me at
Whoa.
that time it was like I don't even have one ETH. Like, can you imagine spending 32 ETH on a piece of art? Um, and I just thought this is insane. I want to learn more about him. Like, and then can you imagine like owning a piece of this history? Like, who
Mm,
was doing stuff like this with these layers and like all the combinations? And it was just like such a cool thing. So I was like, just imagine having a Rabble, or at that time it was like imagine just owning something from Xcopy. The like it just hit. It was just like dark and weird and cool. It was like going back to film. My another favorite director of mine is David Lynch,
mm,
and I love his dark and weird shit. And Xcopy kind of reminded me of his dark and weird shit, like without being able to describe like in art terms why it was amazing. Like when I started, that's what I kind of connected it to. Um, and just the respect that he had for or that everyone had for him every time because at that time it was just like let's just find all the big collectors like just sleuth 24/7. I want to see what all these people who have tons of money value and then I'll decide whether I value them or not myself and yeah he was one that I just kept I just never I never had a doubt about him. With anyone else I can think of, I was just like, oh, but yeah, there's this or that, whatever. There was no doubt there. So I kind of just made it a goal, even then, that I wanted to own a Rabble or an equivalent. X copy one of one is the dream, I guess. So even from my first days in the space, that was a dream of mine. Um, and then over time got some Max Paynes, traded those with some other things for XCopy traders. Then I traded that for a grifter. Then I traded the grifter and mutant ape and some other things for the rabble. And that was over a 2 year period of just deliberate dedication to a goal. Um, and over that time, all Xcopy has done is just proved how unique and interesting he is to the space, and the veneration of, the threads that this just unbelievably smart collectors and artists write about him, and the way that he carries himself and is always doing um he's just always doing the right thing. It's like there was the CCO debates. Okay, fine. Then he's collecting some of his own work, so he makes sure that when there was the issues around what's it called, the royalties, and this is just more recent stuff I'm thinking of, but obviously there's a million other things that have happened. Um, what else did he do? Oh, even just recently, yeah, with the CCO collapse was crazy. Like, I feel like, and that's just in the last, what, 3 or 4 months, those things have happened. Like, and you just look back and you keep seeing these changes and changes. And to your point earlier about just grinding, regardless of the conditions, like you see, he was doing stuff on Tumblr 10 years ago,
Yeah.
selling stuff for £1. Like, I've just never seen anyone that's so legendary. And
Do you?
I,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. You're the guest, man. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, the amount of like uh pride and like just like I still wake up all the time and can't believe that I own a piece of the rabble, like proper crypto art history. Like, how am I this lucky? Like, what did I do? Like, all the hard work to do that. Like, that feeling is just insane. It's just insane.
Tell me about the middle between wanting and receiving. How difficult was it to get to that point to own an X copy,
Um,
or if it was at all?
good. Yeah, yeah. I guess I think I'm trying to think of that. I mean, it's a long time. It's proper 2 years. Um, so I have to kind of think about it. I mean, no, I'm gonna say it was up, down, and all around because you go through periods where just like, crypto and more generally, like I I think it took me a good 6 months of just getting used to like trading and collecting, and you go up and you go down and you think, oh, like now I'm farther away from this, now I'm closer. How do I continue to make like the right moves? And you have to be so deliberate about what you do. um so I would say it was a very arduous journey, um that had its ups and downs throughout. But the as long as I kept the main goal in my mind, each time that I took, it was basically just steps. I just took little steps the whole way. I'm not a day trader, I'm not going to make a ton of money overnight on a random NFT or coin. So I just have to be super patient with myself and like uh, trust the process.
Mm,
I think
wow,
that's the easiest way to describe it.
great answer, man. Uh, do you believe the next X copy, right? Do you believe
Mm.
that the next artist that makes it big in the Web3, do you think that they should put in 10 years of work just like he did? Or do you think it'll go much faster?
That's a good question. Um, I think it'll probably go faster just based on the way that the space works and the how quickly things move in crypto. I think that it will go way faster for the next, yeah, so whoever becomes, not that there's a next X copy. I think that's always something people are saying.
Right.
Oh yeah, there is no other one. Yeah, I agree, but I know what you mean about achieving that kind of level of fame and that
Yeah.
kind of level of sales and whatever else. I think it will definitely happen faster.
Hmm. So yeah, it's a tricky question because when I think about it, I think like he made his bones, right? He what do I say? He solidified his position
Yeah.
and right? And you feel like even what you're saying is true, right? Somebody could make it to that level. Sometimes I wonder if the years he put in didn't already pay for his future in some sense. I don't know if I'm making any sense. Like,
No, I know what you mean, but
yeah,
I just
you see,
think like I think that um I think it's just a facet. Like, there's so many other artists that have done that. Like,
Right.
I don't know. Like, does that make sense? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's a facet and it's important. And when you're making the argument, it's there. But I don't know if that necessarily is the reason why. And like, yeah, I think it made him who he is today. But there's tons of other artists that put in 10 years and didn't get anything out of it. So
Mm,
I don't know. Like, not that it's a make or break, but I think that's just the tough way of how the world works sometimes is like, and then someone who achieves that kind of level of success next might not might just be in a new paradigm. I mean, when X was doing it too, there wasn't that level of collectors and people involved, and the whole idea is, next time we come around, there's going to be a whole new group of people like myself that hopefully join because we've got all the good things that for the reasons why I and so many other people that joined in the last run are now interested. You know what I mean?
mm, yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
maybe not the nicest thing to, it's not the most uplifting thing, I think, just because you want to say, no matter what, yeah, you put the time in, you're going to get rewarded. Um, I don't know.
you know what I believe? It's yeah, it's the truth, right? And
Yeah.
I believe the truth is we all have different times we're supposed to put in. I believe you like maybe X put in 10, you're supposed to put in 20. But
Yeah, yeah,
if you exactly like if you put in the years, eventually it'll pay off. But are you willing to put in the years? You see
yeah.
what I'm saying?
Conviction.
Yeah, it's a, man, because everybody wants to make it to heaven, but nobody wants to die a million times, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Because as an artist, like you work your ass off, you can put something out and it'll flop. But you put in all your hard work and now you have to go back in and do it over and over and over and over again.
100%. 100%. I think it's so difficult. I actually that's something I've thought about recently with, I mean, again from the collector side, but there's the meta around all of the curation um like groups. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like
Mm, yeah.
Noble and Click Create and all the different ones to sort of
Right.
start bringing in people that don't tend to collect art but want to.
Mm,
Um, and the conviction, like the people that are running those are just some of the smartest, best collectors that I've ever come across, and they have 100% conviction, and they're doing they're working their ass off 24/7 from a collector side, and the market doesn't care right now because the market's the way it is. It's shit. So like you just have to keep grinding, and you can't base it. I mean, I'm just giving you an example from the collector side again, but I definitely know I definitely know what you mean. It's just like you just got to keep grinding. And what else
so
is there?
yeah. So in this bear market where everything is going to shit, what do you feel like artists should be doing right now?
I definitely think they should just be keep creating. I don't see why not. That's what I mean. That's what gives you the most happiness in life is creating stuff. And if it's good and it conveys things and emotions to people and they vibe with it, then they're gonna come for it eventually. I would definitely not say to stop just because the market shit. I don't understand that. And I think, the best artists to me don't care that they're not getting new all-time highs. And I don't care, if I timed my entry into an artist that's higher than um what the next person bought it for. Now they're doing it on a different platform or like, but again, like I don't do math anyways. I'm not a trader of anything. I'm just here because I genuinely like it, but I do think about that. I don't know.
Mm. And do you notice when an artist shows up every day? Is that something that's important to you? Do you like take note of that?
I mean, yeah, kind of to what I said before. I mean, I do like to converse with them if they're around every day, but I'm not gonna like
You know what I'm
they're
saying?
they're not gonna drop in my mind because they're not around. Like if
Mm,
yeah, it doesn't affect the value of the work or like what they're doing if they're not around. To me personally, like I don't care if they don't have a Discord and they're not in there GMing every day, or I'm yeah, not having a saying what are you working on now? Do I not? I also love when I get random messages of new works or works in progress and stuff, but I don't know. And maybe there's a lot of collectors that do care about that, but just personally, I don't.
interesting. Yeah, that whole GM debate, man. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about GM after all this time. I still don't know because I feel like we could good morning each other to death and nothing happens. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think overall, I don't mind it.
Yeah, that's interesting. the f- yeah, that's interesting because I feel like certain artists sometimes like myself, like we do it because we feel like it's the only way to stay in the
Yeah, yeah,
community,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I see
And
what you mean.
yeah, and from a collector's perspective, I can see it as being, it's chill. It's if you can do it or not do it. And
Yeah,
yeah, and I'm constantly questioning if jamming is getting me anywhere because it gets super fucking exhausting.
like I said, I just GM on occasion, so
Yeah,
I don't really mind. But doing it every
yeah,
day sounds like a hassle. Sounds like a yeah, job.
yeah. It stops being
Fun.
honest in some way. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I could see that.
Well, Sandro, man, thank you again for coming out, bro.
No problem.
Thank you. Thank you for
Enjoyed it.
accepting my invite, man. Really,
Yeah.
thank you, man.
Anytime, even if we're not recording or anything, I'd be happy to chat.
I appreciate that, man. It was definitely one of my favorite episodes. I love the fact, you get the collector's perspective. I think everybody should hear what you guys have to say, and especially, what you guys have to share, how you feel about it. So, yeah, man, thank you.
Same, and I mean, I hope that like my goal would just be to continue to bridge that artist and collector connection.
Yeah, yeah, we need that conversation for everybody's mental health, and things are clear. And yeah, well, thank you again, man, and have a nice day off.